Finish with the airbrush, and you're not using it for a while, get the thinners, put a couple of drops in the hydride, tip whatever's left out in there, or you can have another cup to tip paint in, and if you're using it again, fair bit of it, you can suck it back out of there, right? But then blow it through. This is a battery operated one, this one. So you put your finger on there, it'll push it back up, and just get that in there. I really need to keep it clean, and I have to. And I'm going to suck it out now.
What sort of size needles are you normally using?
Well, 0.3 is normal.
0.3.
That's what this one's got. That one might be a bit finer, but I'm not sure. But I seem to be able to, get most things with that.
I'm using a 0.2, 0.3 and a 0.5.
Yeah.
I use a 0.5 because I'm doing O gauge and G scale.
Yeah.
I want to cover big areas.
Yeah.
Yeah, that figures.
0.2 would be good for airbrushing, but you'd have to have another third airbrush, right? Because I won't be able to get it to cover over paint, it takes too long to paint things, and you'd be trying to paint, the spray pattern would be too small. Then I'd have to come back too far from it to get it to the spray pattern to be wide enough, and then it would be drying out too much. So I think that this is about right for most. Because I can paint something with this and I can make it look fairly fine with it. But like I said, to get it to look fine and not be splattering like this, I mix it with varnish, right? I don't to get the fine effect. I'm not using a finer needle.
This is your bottle in there, isn't it?
Yeah, whatever varnish goes with the paint. So basically I'm making the paint transparent like this. See that? You can see through it, but not as much as that, but you know what I'm getting at. And that's just the main secret to doing most of the airbrushing, is that you've just got to have, don't use the paint straight out of the container unless you're actually painting something. But if you're weathering something, don't use it straight out of there, because it'll just cover everything, so that's not what you want. You just want to tint stuff, and get it to be transparent as well. So this is a good time to show you just about the sanding and scraping, which is a pretty basic thing that I do. We'll use this one here. No, this one here is more better candidate for that. So sanding and scraping is, if I want something to look like it's something to wear off, you just use some wet and dry paper. Now, because this wagon, say, is made out of wood, in the real world, if I use something a bit coarser and I scratch it, it might look like wood grain. So you know how the wood grain's sort of raised, and then it might flake off in lines because of the timber, So I might do something like that with maybe something coarser, which I'd say 240 grit. If you just want it to look like the paint's sort of wearing off gradually, you might use something like, say, 600 grit. So we're talking about number 4, sanding and scraping. So if I go over this a little bit, eventually it's going to go through and look like the edges are starting to wear. Okay, now here we go.
So you're getting back to the original material.
It's underneath of it.
Yeah, and what colour's that?
Right, it's going back to the paint that's underneath. Alright, so those letters now look like they've worn. Because this is metal, this is a mink van, you're not going to have striations like the wood would have, whereas this one here could have. So I'd use something coarser on this one. And like I said again, probably don't do too much.
So you're just doing the lettering, are you?
Yeah. It basically looks like the sign writing is flaking off on the ridges of the wood, really. So you can have a look at them now, and just remember that this one's got the light filter on it, and it's on its way, isn't it? Because it's not all one colour anymore. So just hand them around, Richard, and we can check them. And also this has got like a filter on the top just to represent the smoke from the, you know, the train, but it's not finished yet. I'm probably going to have to come back with a bit of white because it's a bit
It's
strong.
too heavy, yeah.
It's too heavy, but I've got to start heavy and then I can come back the other way a little bit because I wanted it to go on the rivets, you see, because this is a new Rapido wagon and it's very detailed. It's a beautiful thing on the roof. So yeah, I've just sanded a bit of paint off and it just looks like on one side only, it just looks like the paint's starting to fall off, you know, a bit now.
Yes. There.
It's the hard part.
Okay, we'll get a different colour in here now. That'll be good. Hey, these I found are good for tipping in water.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, soy sauce bottle.
Yeah.
So what's in that?
Vinegar.
Soy sauce.
What's in that? In the
Windex and water.
Windex and water.
Windex is like wet water, I call it, because it's got a bit of detergent in it and a little bit of alcohol. So, you know,
You could make it yourself though, couldn't you?
Yeah, water on its own is thick, right? And I don't like using water on its own because water's got, if you put water in a glass up at the top, you can see it has a skin on it.
Yeah.
Meniscus.
Yeah, meniscus. And then when you put detergent in it gets rid of that. But I don't want too much detergent in it because it'll start bubbling up everywhere. And so it's a horrible thing, you know.
One drops too much, isn't it?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I'm going to go back to weathering now with water-based paint because we're what we're going to do is well, chipping and sponging we can do that next, and we'll leave that for a minute. We'll do some apply and remove.
So it's like you was washing out your acrylic with Windex.
That's it.
Yeah.
Because
So it's obviously water-based paint.
it's water, you know, Windex is basically alcohol and water and a bit of detergent, because basically that's what paint thinners is, right?
So that's just reducing the surface tension of water as
Yeah,
well.
so I'm using water-based paint. I was using water-based paint to paint the wagon for chipping, right? And water-based paint is, like I said, I don't use straight water in it because it's got a skin on it. Water, you know, doesn't flow very well unless you add some detergent or alcohol in there. Put alcohol in with it. But some of this water paint doesn't like too much alcohol. It doesn't like to
How
have
do
too
you
much
find the
alcohol.
Vallejo stuff?
Well, it dries fast. I can get in any colour I want. It covers well. It's very good quality pigment. It's fine. So yeah, I find it good.
You have to thin it down a lot.
No, because you can buy it ready thinned to suit the airbrush. It's called Vallejo Air. So
Yeah,
it's all
well,
ready.
I found that I had trouble with the Vallejo. It kept blocking the brushes up, the airbrush up.
So you're still thinning it down more, are you?
Yeah.
Yes. You've just got to thin it out, right? And you've got to wash out the airbrush immediately.
Yeah, I realise that.
Immediately.
What do you use for thinning that?
The Windex and water mixed together.
Oh, really? Yeah,
But it's
yeah.
got its own thinners.
I know you can get your own, yeah.
I would use their own thinners, to be honest, because it'll be perfectly suited for that paint.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't risk.
Because the ratio they give you, I've tried that and it's still too thick.
Which is?
They're talking about...
Is that the air or the
Yeah, that's the
colour?
air.
Yeah, it's still a bit thick, isn't it?
Yeah, they're saying 7 drops of the air to
Yeah.
one or 2 drops of
Yeah,
the
exactly.
And that just doesn't seem enough.
No. See, this is what this weathering is all about. It's about practicing. And then you'll find out, you know, what works. Because I only started using this stuff about 3 years ago,
Yeah.
because I was using Tamiya before. But I started to use it because I said, it's already thinned out for the airbrush.
Yeah, my mate who does wargaming, he uses, so he put them onto Vallejo with the airbrush.
Yeah. Hey, and you know what though? It's available in such brilliant colours because it's really hard to mix that much paint every time you want that colour. And it also dries, it's a slightly different colour when it dries, so it's
Yeah.
do your head in trying
That's
to
what I found
paint, mix the paint up. So what you've got to do is you've got to get the closest colour to what you want. And I know that this NATO brown looks like a sort of dusty rust.
Okay.
But there's other ones I could use, you know, I'll just get something else. I like the paint from MIG Ammo. I love it.
Yeah, that's got a good name. A lot of plastic
But
models use
not
that.
many hobby shops in Adelaide sell it. So I bought a whole heap of these rust colours from Metro Hobbies, I think it might have been, or something from Melbourne. And
Do you know anywhere here that does have it? Does
No,
military
no.
models have it?
No, it's a pain.
I mean, he's
The
got...
trouble with rust is it's so many different colours, isn't
That's it. But hey, I want to talk about the colours of rust as an artist. It is not. It's not like a red brown. When it's light rust, it's so yellowy orange. And when it gets older and darker, it goes to a red, an orangey brown, and then it goes to like a plum coloured browny
Yeah.
black, right? It's never red brown like that can. It's not far off that colour, but it's a lot more orange than that is, and more. By the time it gets that dark, it's a lot more brown than it is orange. It never's red like that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, see that colour there? That's more like rust is when it's starting to get dark. Because this is not like a red brown, this is just a normal brown, isn't it? But as it gets lighter, it starts to go like this colour here. That, it goes like this, see? It starts like that. And then it starts to go like this, and then it starts to go like this. Where is it? That's the problem when there's so many. Where are you? Here it is.
So which one's that you got there?
German black brown.
Yeah, I've got that.
When rust is really old, it goes like that,
Yeah.
right? So
That'd be really good for putting around the edges of stuff that's got holes in it.
we'll use that in a minute. We're going to use
So
that.
you
for
could
chipping.
mix different amounts of those three together. to get
Yeah,
variations
for
as well.
sure. So I'd only need these three. That would be just about all I'd need
You
to
need
have.
to send us an email with those colours.
But
So we
there is
know.
another brown that's quite good too, in Tamiya.
I've done my
Um,
third rail German black brown, because when you look at the third rails in the UK, it's not black. If you do it matte black, it's too black.
Yeah.
It's got to be slightly darker than the rails when you look around southern region stuff. German black brown.
Is that because like of the electric current running through it? It's different.
Yeah, I mean when you see it, when they're not really running and the trains over it much, I like the bits where they drop down. It's a bit of a different colour, but it ends up, especially on the inside next to the side next to the track, it ends up like a lot of grease and shite on it basically.
So you have a look at this,
That does
guys.
go black.
This Tamiya one is the be and end all for middle rust as well. It's called Linoleum Deck Brown, but I've just put a bit of this NATO brown on it, and you'll see it's slightly different, but it's in the same sort of family. But this is a really good one to have. You need to get that paint. You need to get that paint for sure, and you need to have another one called NATO Black.
You put it on the top.
These are the two ones you need for weathering.
Sorry, on the bottom. There.
These are the three colours. Hey, if you had these three colours, that's all you need for weathering. Just those three colours there.
Take
So what are they?
that in the shop.
That's
What
the
make
NATO black.
NATO black,
XF69.
normal black, and linoleum deck brown. That's it. That's
Actually,
all
what
you really
What you
need.
can do is you can put the dark colour on, and then once it's dry, you can put a touch of the orangey colour on top.
Sure.
Down it.
Sure, you can get an orange wash. But see, I've got lots of different variants of colours, right, as you can see here. I mean, so if you wanted to make, say, this colour here, you could mix a bit of black with that brown and it'll be similar to that, right, for example. But I mean, I'm a bit particular. I mean, this particular colour here that I'm using, it's hard to get that for anything. So, but we can quickly go now to chipping and sponging, right? So the other way to get chips, right, so we've got the rust showing through underneath where the paint's chipped off, is you can use a sponge, like a fine sponge, see what I've got there, right? But I've got to like break it off so it's not like it hasn't got like a flat edge on it.
Yeah, you gotta get it rough.
Yeah, that's right, I've got to get it rough. Okay,
So
that
what sort
might
of-
do.
is that just rubber sponge? Or is it
Well,
abrasive?
that's like packing sponge.
Stuff you get in
And this
the
stuff,
packing
now look at this,
Oh,
this
yeah.
stuff here is coarser. Well, we'll see what we'll do with this. Get some of this stuff. Use some of that too. Now I'll get the tweezers to hold that, for example. I'm going to grab this. Now this is like dry brushing, really. So I've got to get this, so it's only just dotting on there, right? And I wanted to get it on the edges of stuff. You know where paint rubs off on the edges and stuff? And you're going to see the metal showing through underneath where the paint's come off. If it's still a bit wet, I'm doing this really lightly now. Now it's gone on there more than I expected it to. So now I've made the whole thing look like the paint's fallen off, and I've gone further with it to even it up. You know, because if you make a mistake, well, it's a random thing, weathering. You know, and everyone, you know, will be slightly different. But I mean, that's what you want, because you don't want every wagon to look the same. But yeah, you may not have to do too much, because you can go, like I said, you can go overboard with your weathering and
I
just
think
end
it also
up.
depends on at what distance you're going to use your wagon.
Well, I'm looking through here because I want it to look like real. If I zoom in on it with a photograph and take a photograph of it, I want it to actually look like the real thing. And if you do that, then it'll look good from any distance. If you can make it look real through here, then it doesn't matter how close you get to it, it'll always look good, right? Now, that's still going on a bit of a pattern here. See, I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to rip it up a bit more now. But sometimes you just turn it around. And so, you know, you've always got to really test. But you can't be too scared when you're weathering if something goes wrong, because, you know, you don't know what it's going to do always. And, you know, if you make a mistake, you've got to turn it into a good idea, right? And just make it more there. You know, because I didn't like the way we were getting the pattern there. So now I'm just going to make that darker now. And with powder, if something's wet, you can get powder to stick to it as well as it's matte. This is a great colour. Right, I'll put some powder on there now, right? And I'll just use this to spread it. Because this colour is amazing. This colour is amazing.
If you get too much and it's too wet, it goes like mud.
Yeah, but see what I'll do is I might get it in there and I'll flick it on, right? Or I just dab it on, but then I'll spread it with this by just hitting it, right? But you'll see this looks great now, because there was more on there than I wanted, so I've made it into a bigger rust area. But I know using this powder over top is the final icing on the cake. We know when you're doing rust is getting some powder on there. It looks fantastic when you get some
Do
powder
you ever
on
use your
there.
finger?
Not really.
I do. I find.
Oh, you could. I mean, you can do anything you
I find
want.
if I overdo it, I can.
Yeah,
I give it a
For
wipe
sure.
with the finger,
yeah.
and if it's too much, I wet my finger first.
Well, I probably
Take it
use
off.
the Q-tips, because I can kind of be more
Oh, that's a
accurate to
bit-
where
that's a
I
bit-
want.
That's a bit more sophisticated.
Well, because the fingers actually just want, it's probably a little bit big for
Bit
a lot of
big,
things.
yeah.
So I use that.
Yeah.
So that's a good tip though. Because what you just talked about, Peter, is number 6, apply and remove. What
Yeah.
you're doing in apply and remove is you're putting paint on and then you're taking it off. You're putting powder on and then you're taking it off. You're putting, you know, a filter on and then maybe spraying it with thinners and half of it runs off. Because there's lots of different ways you can apply and remove, and that's what I was going to show you next. Is that. And we'll probably use another one because we want everything to match if we can.